what is grit? I'm a little bit more familiar with Eisnick Big Five personality traits. That's something that I prescribe to a little bit more. So I'm curious as to what grit is.
Yeah, so grit is as defined by I call her the mother of grit. Her name is Dr. Angela Duckworth out of the University of Pennsylvania. She's the one that I suppose founded, put a name on grit, created the instrument, created the grit questionnaire. So grit, as defined by Angela, is passion and perseverance over long terms. And grit, I think something, especially in the sport world, is a word that's been bounced around a lot. And maybe not a lot of athletes or coaches have a very firm and consistent definition to the term. But for me in my ivory tower, grit is passion, perseverance over long terms, meaning that you're striving towards a singular goal, not over weeks or months, but over years and decades. And you're really, really stubborn about achieving that goal.
Very cool. That sounds like a good definition for something, and something that's valuable to have.
Yeah, and for you, with the Big Five, grit is most similar to the point where a lot of academics are wondering, is grit just the new label of the old wine that is conscientiousness? So there's a lot of overlap between grit and conscientiousness. I
was thinking that as you described it, it sounds a lot like conscientiousness.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and yeah, right. Conscientiousness, for anyone listening, is the personality trait for, just as you described it, it's something that being able to work hard at something or work long hours towards something. And so conscientiousness is the second greatest determinant for lifelong success in people. And it sounds like grit is also quite high up there. So it's interesting that there's a intersectionality between those two.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with Angela's research and with research in the field coming out, we keep finding that grit is a better determinant of success than more traditional markers. So let's say IQ. So a score on an IQ test isn't necessarily a better predictor of success in the long term than grit. So it's really neat. It's a really neat way of thinking, particularly in sport, in that you don't have to be the best at something in order to be very, very successful at something. Because at the end of the day, say on a team of athletes, you have your MVP, your all-star athlete, but one year they decide that this sport isn't for them, or that they'd rather go take a year off to go travel, and they just aren't as sharp anymore. If you're the person at the end of it all still hanging on and still training and still having that consistency, you can be the one that's successful. You don't have to be the strongest, the fastest, etc., etc. You have to be the most determined.
Yeah, there was a study a while ago that was interesting that compared conscientiousness and success towards conscientiousness and IQ in success, and it was looking at an Asian population more specifically, because particularly the Chinese culture is more geared toward hard work and conscientiousness, and so they were able to perform as well as people that had a 15 IQ bump on them, which is unbelievably significant. It's a standard deviation. So being able to make up for that just with hard work is unbelievably impressive. And
absolutely. And I think liberating too, because I think it's a lot of pressure. Again, in a room of 1,000 people, there's only one person that's the best. So I think it's very liberating to know that you can make up for that deficit in talent with, again, that determination with that hard work.